Well met, lords and ladies, Zombie Jacob speaking. I'm a zombie. I'm here on the quest for brains, because I am a zombie today. And a warm welcome to this week's Walking Wednesday, Give Me Your Brains. No, well, I just call myself a zombie because I recognize the fact that I haven't really properly, washed my face, done really much of anything before I just kind of grabbed my clothes and left. And there's a good reason for that. It's because, as of right now, well, you know what? No. I had to top myself from last week. There were comments from last week's Walking Wednesday where they said, oh yeah, you're such a great storyteller because of the way that I structured last episode of Walking Wednesday. Well, you know what? Today I'm going to do a little bit of something similar. And I'm going to talk about Aesop's Fables. Now, I'm sure we've all heard of certain Aesop's Fables and such, your typical tortoise and the hare, etc. The one about how we're trying to hibernate. I can't remember lots of them right now, but I remember that in elementary school, and I was still in the US, that was something that was really focused on for one particular assembly performance. And you know me, if it's theatre, I tend to retain a little bit of it at least for, years to come. So, yeah, there's that. I just remember the time that Thomas Edison apparently, came over to our school. So we got visits from Thomas Edison, George Washington, and Abraham Lincoln. Two of those people, I'm pretty sure, played by the exact same woman. But there's the illusion of theatre for you there. Anyway, I'm rambling. So Aesop's Fables, everyone knows at least one of them. Most likely two, maybe even more than you think you do. And for the most part, that's because they are timeless. Even though they were literally written in ancient times by an author with no last name, because that wasn't even a thing yet, you still have the same morals and the same basic idea to this day. I would argue with one exception: the boy who cried wolf. Because not many people are shepherds anymore. It's not like the shepherd is the average person anymore. We've all moved on to other things. We've moved on to much more varied jobs in society, and now positions of such power over livestock are no longer afforded to people that young most of the time, at least not exclusively. And so, what would I adapt the fairy tale to this day? If I were to tell it again, I would adapt it to the student accommodation fire alarm that went off too many times. Yeah, that's why I'm here right now, because I'm pretty sure something like the 7th time we had a fire alarm that went off in the past 2 months. Have I been here for 2 months? Yeah. 2 months, maybe slightly 3. It depends if the first one went off in August or not. I have been back for a while in that place, and my word, it just does not seem that way. Well, it does seem that way, actually, yeah, I should say, it does seem that way. Because apart from the fact that I saw my parents and lots of family on Sunday that I hadn't seen for a while, I also got the fire alarm today, again. So yeah, I was just there, pretty much that was my wake-up call, so I just grabbed a bunch of clothes and I was like, hey, you know what, why not just grab my phone and just head out and then just film Walking Wednesday right here, because I'm already up and I have at least the power of locomotion and of speech. That's all you really need for this series, apart from, I guess, memories of the past week. So, you know what? I'm here. This is me in zombie form. So there you go. End of fable. If the fire alarm goes off too many times, not enough people will respond. Because by the time that I got out, basically, no one was really there. There was 2 people. One of whom was a neighbor that I actually met during one of the fire alarms. One of the late at night ones, and I said hi. But that was mostly it. I know some people are still at uni, because not everyone has directed study week this week, which is what I have. But yeah, it's I don't know. Yeah, really, I was just there on my own. We're starting to get to the point where people aren't coming anymore because the alarm is crying wolf too many times. And there, my friends, is that segue. Anyway, that's what happened. So yeah, one of these days, I feel like I'm just gonna go back to that building. I'm just gonna see like a chunk of it just smoking or smoldering or something. I don't know. I don't really have too much faith in that place anymore. I mean, that fire alarm actually, it turned itself off within seconds actually. So maybe even then, like by the time I was actually, ready, it was done. You think that if the fire alarm was still going and a fire was still going, then the alarm itself would continue. Because let me tell you, that thing can be pretty annoying at times. I mean, it kind of has to be. You know what? I really do pity anyone who has sensory overload that lives in my building, because by now they're probably just better off moving out. To be honest, that's the thing. Like really, I mean, if I find that thing unpleasant, I can't imagine what they must go through. But who knows? I've had the idea of sensory overload on my mind recently because of a story that Alicia was trying to write yesterday and I was helping out with. She was actually just randomly pulling me aside and doing those things. And now I am going in inverse order because that happened yesterday. So yeah, let's cast our minds back, because I don't want to go inverse order again this time, because the most interesting thing of the week actually happened at the end of said week. So yeah, let's go back. Let me see, what we'll be doing. Thursday was a bit of a directing thing. Oh, Friday. Friday was the interesting one. Well, to start off with. So Friday was directing day, and like I said before, what happens in rehearsal is supposed to stay in rehearsal, so I can't really elaborate too much on that. However, during that Friday, there were two meetings going around. One for the directors that we had to go to, and one for people applying to the music festival that they were encouraged to go to. I missed the second one because they took place at the same time. So yeah, the directors one was basically us getting familiar with how to book the rooms for rehearsals. So basically any of the theatre spaces that we had within three buildings actually on campus, we had to learn how to basically use that system. And there was a little bit of confusion at first. Two people sat amongst us, and then two directors each got one production manager to help us through. So there I was, watching the other director in question try and fill in her things and being explained everything, and I was just watching and observing. Why not? It seemed like a fairly simple system, and now that I finally got to use it, it was. Which makes the rest of what happened extremely annoying. Because before all of that, we were encouraged to get our actors' schedules and talk to them about work shifts and timetables, etc. I'm a dual honours student, so single honours also have classes depending on certain times, which means that we cannot physically, we cannot book certain rehearsal spaces and certain rehearsal times, because we would be clashing with things. That was my only concern. So this other director, when I was observing, had some very, very rigid schedules to adhere to. I did not. Fortunately, both the writer that I have and the actors have said that they're available pretty much at any point. And there's a few minor bits where their work shifts could not be changed and such. And of course, there's a couple of lessons and things, which I booked one of the wrong ones, incidentally, and then I was able to change it immediately. which they told me I wasn't able to do, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So yeah, I was just able to wait and just have everyone else book their things, and then once they expressly said to me, they expressly told all of us that we could use that system by logging in at home. They showed us how to log in. They showed us how to make and activate our accounts. We confirmed that if we were not to be sent an email or not. Turns out that I hadn't, so that's the one thing I had, so they clarify with them, is that send me the email, please, which they did. So I had the email, I had the knowledge, and I had the power to activate that at any point. Which is why, a few hours later, after I found out something that happened during the musical meeting that apparently you can do, which makes making a musical for me for this festival much more viable, which I'm going to take the option of. After all of that, and after 2 hours of directing sessions, we were off in the same bar that we're normally at the end, celebrating the end of our timetabled classes, because all we had left was the assessment. Now bear in mind, I have not gone home at this point. I have not spent any time near my accommodation since that meeting happened. And yet, one of the guys, who wasn't even the production manager that showed me how to do this stuff in the first place, comes up to me, and then he says that why had I not booked anything during that time. Again, they expressly said you could do it at your best convenience. Right then was not my best convenience. It was the best convenience of the people who had rigid schedules they needed to book first, and I was there waiting to make sure. So, it turns out that from no prompting whatsoever, this guy had then reserved a bunch of places for me, which in principle sounds great. In principle, is a very kind gesture. In practicality, his name was also booked for all of the places that there were lectures. Like, his name showed up because they wanted to make sure that we didn't book anything over actual lectures, because obviously the rooms will be used for those things. So there was his name, lecture, everywhere. Every single day that was available for booking. Weekends aren't available, so that didn't apply. So the fact that he, of all people, had reserved that place meant that I visually could not identify the timings that he had set aside, apparently for me, without checking my timetable, might I add, that I had to actually adhere to, so that I basically could do nothing. Suddenly, it wasn't at my best convenience, it was at his best convenience to tell me the times that he'd booked, which he didn't have access to in that current moment, nor did I, and then inform me, and then him, at his best convenience, to liberate those times for me and wipe the slate clean. So suddenly, out of no confusion whatsoever, I end up in the position where I'm physically powerless. Because on one hand, what if I did need those times, but, it has this guy's name on it, and it's not one of the booking times? I don't know that. What if this is a clashing time that I had? One of the very few. I could do nothing about that, and I didn't even know. I couldn't even note down which rehearsal spaces were there to send them to the actors, because they weren't under my name. So, yeah, needless to say, I wasn't entirely happy. I appreciate the gesture, I understand that it came out of good intentions, but in practicality, that's what generated the only bit of confusion that I had. The only bit of powerlessness that I ever possessed during that time before it was sorted. So yeah, I say to him, okay, well, you know what, please, I'll contact you about this stuff when I get back home. An hour passes because, we're still there celebrating. Again, this is the booking system we're going to use at our own convenience. So I don't need to rush back home. But the production managers seem to think that it was the most urgent thing in the entire world. And I understand again, I understand their mentality too. They wanted to make sure that no one else came in and just randomly started booking other rehearsal spaces. First of all, we're the only ones that were there during that meeting. We're the only ones that had those booking systems, and pretty much everyone else, apart from one director who also didn't have an email, were able to book their things right there, decide their timetables, and be done with it. So again, I had nothing to lose. But yeah, like during this time, 2 of the production managers dropped me messages on Messenger via Facebook, and one of them just says, you know, "Hi Sean, you know, we've got I've seen that you haven't got any bookings on here. Whilst they're confused, like, no, it's fine. I'm just not home yet. You know, please let me do this at my own convenience. That's what I was told." And the other one was the same production manager that showed me and this other director how to use the system. And she overheard a conversation at one point where I said to the other director, well, you know what, if you don't want to use any of the spaces that you've booked, because she'd already booked extras. Again, another reason why I don't think people will be booking too many extras, because they're already doing that. Then I said, okay, well, you just send them to me, and then I will take those. But yeah, then I get a message from this production manager, and then she says, "Hi Sean, I misunderstood. I thought you said that you were going to use yours and da-da-da-da's timings, and you would book those together." Which, again, imagine that situation for one of the actors that's looking at this system that they've never been presented with. They weren't at the meeting. They had to look at that timetable, find someone's name, and see where they were booked. They're not going to search up for the wrong director's name unless I tell them specifically. I guess that would have worked out if I had actually gone over the exact times with this director, but then again, the production manager saw that we actively did not do that. We did not check every single time and note them down. So yeah, again, that would have been horrible in practicality. So yeah, none of those things actually happened, and here I am just trying to say, like, I would just book this thing normally, the way that we were just shown in the meeting. But now I can't, because of the other guy from the beginning. So yeah, that was the end of Friday, basically. Was me. Well, I had a stream on that day as well, so I messaged the guy before the stream. Turns out he messaged me afterwards, so I just went to bed. So yeah, for the rest of the weekend, I'm trying to think, okay, I dropped this guy an email on Saturday as well to contact him. Then he messages me on Messenger again. He saw the message finally and tells me the times that he'd booked, but he also says that he's going to cancel them. So then I have the information, I can book them myself. So yeah, that's fine. Then afterwards I find a message from him, I think the next day, you know, and then he says, okay, well, you know, I've taken off the bookings now. You can go ahead and book whenever. I don't really use his messages, because it turned out that some of the rooms that he'd reserved aren't the ones that I would like to use. I think it's because he took some of the big rooms in order to fill out those spaces, just to make sure that if I ever wanted some of those big rooms for the rehearsal, I could use them. Trouble with that is that we were actively discouraged by our directing tutor to book those rooms all the time, because we won't need them. Some rehearsals are just going to be in small spaces, working on refining detail. And that's what I accounted for. I booked some of the big rooms. Some of them, yes. Occasionally we do need to find out, and we need to choose a room that we're going to perform this in. However, that also means we need to work in those certain rooms and vary it up a little bit in order to really properly establish that. And I have yet to see the script of this thing. So I can't even prepare for that at this stage. But that was expected, because, you know, none of the writers have fully finished and sent everything over just yet. That's what they're doing this week for director study. So that part, at least, has been structured. Something went very quiet. Yeah, because I'm just like, I was like at a very heated moment, and then also the waves or something. Because yeah, I have the sea behind me. I don't know if you noticed, because I hold this this terrible angle. I can blame people film stuff like this. Like when Moni did her face reveal, she actually did it then from like this angle over here or something. I was like, why? Yeah, because my first thought was, you know, wow, she's gorgeous. My second thought was, wow, that cinematography is awful. But yeah, on one hand, like, I don't want my hands to get too tired, so I film in this like happy medium area usually, and then occasionally I'll swap hands. So yeah, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so by this point that's when I finally get to book all these areas. Then during like a couple of days pass, and during the assessment directorials that we're doing, the assessed pieces that required us to be there during Power Director Study Week, 5 hours a day rehearsing different extracts that people have been sent before but hadn't really probably familiarized themselves with, and doing a rehearsed reading for the acting tutor and the directing tutor. So I was there, as I was required to be in the school, and yet on the second day I get a message from the writer that says the guy from the beginning had messaged her saying that I still hadn't booked the rooms, which by this point I had. So once again, he still thinks operating under the supposed urgency when rehearsals don't start until next week. And but yeah, like, even then I still didn't do my whole like, oh yeah, book at your earliest convenience, because if anything, that was my earliest convenience. After I saw that message, I was like, okay, you know what, let's sort this out now. So I said, if he told you that in the past 8 hours, he's mistaken. It was more like 12 hours, but still, you know, bear in mind, I was tired and in the middle of directing people. So yeah, that was the end of that. And then eventually it turns out that the bookings had actually appeared, but for a brief moment, especially while I was working on the assessment, I thought, wait a minute, did I not save the progress and I have to do this all over again? So yeah, that whole system turned to a complete nightmare by no will of my own. So yeah, thanks to all the people that meant well. You know, I'm not trying to have a go at you, but good God. I'll just throw this out there. Not everyone is going to be confused. And not everyone is going to film this Walking Wednesday within the same file space that they have, and they won't be able to finish that thought with one memory recording. Anyway, that's that. That was a good chunk of the week, essentially. There I was trying to relax on Saturday and Sunday, prepare myself mentally for the directorials, and also like plan ahead for them. And maybe do a little bit of Mutant Girl stuff on the side, which I did actually. I'm compiling the audio now for episode 11, even though episode 10 hasn't come out yet. Because partly we're waiting for some of the editors. We were, actually. Most of the editors have now got their stuff in, which is great. It's just, the only couple of things we need left is like one half of scene 4, one half of scene 1, and also a complete scene 2 from me, which we just kind of like rejigged and shuffled over. So yeah, I actually, you know, I say this all the time, but I do aim to post a Mutant Girl episode this week, just because like we've been working on a big time crunch, you know, with all that urgency going forward for us, and yeah, I hope it's not going to show. Like, we're still trying to, you know, provide good quality and such. But yeah, if we want to finish by the end of the year, here I am compiling all the audio I can, because I still haven't gotten the lines from one voice actress who's in a lot of the scenes, so I can't really compile everything, but I'm skipping ahead and doing, you know, scenes 2, 4, 5, etc. And yeah, we're just going to keep plowing through, you know, using November for that time, because December, once again, usually the month of stress. I'm dropping most of that stuff that I tend to do traditionally in December, just because I really can't have every December be a rush to get things done. December 2019 was rush to end season 1 as well. So yeah, I very much would like to conclude this now. And thank goodness the next season doesn't have 12 episodes. That was a mistake. An utter mistake. But yeah. So that's what I kind of what is today? You know, relax after at least one successful assessment. The other one I'm not so sure because I was missing a few fundamental things really. The director didn't seem too happy. Then again, he was doing his intimidating thing where he seems neutral on purpose in order to throw you off. But I don't know. It was slightly implied he wasn't too happy. But then afterwards, like for the actual, for the second one, which was the Shakespeare piece, that one I feel like went much better. You know, the cast really enjoyed themselves a lot more. One of them said at the beginning, "Oh, I hate Shakespeare." Then at the end was like, "Oh, I don't want to disappoint Sean because, you know, I'm nervous for that. Not for the other two. Not for the tutors." Yeah, I don't know. It's just, but yeah, they didn't have to worry about disappointing me because, you know, I was already proud of them. You know, that kind of thing. But no, I generally was. They'd worked really hard on it, and they'd really actually brought the emotions and stuff to life. They hadn't learned the lines because they weren't required to. They had that script there as a security, but they knew what they were saying. We'd gone over what everything meant. We'd gone over the interactions really, and I'm pretty sure that scene was cemented. We didn't get many laughs from it, even though it was a comedy scene, but that's fine. I mean, one of them, the acting tutor, actually, he knew the play quite well, particularly that scene. He'd been in a musical version of it now, which, to be honest, I really want to see a musical 12th Night now. That sounds amazing. If music be the food of love play on and everything. But yeah, he seemed happy at least. Directing tutor, again, appropriately neutral. He said, you know, make some notes, make some other notes tomorrow, and go from there. So I guess if I had to make any mental notes right now, actually no, I'm not going to do that because I've been on for a while and I'm also in zombie Jacob mode. At some point I'm going to head over to the voice audio booth, record myself, and then, you know, send off for that assessment, for that the reflective part, which is what we're really marked on, to be honest. Like in the moment, you know, I gave a few notes by request of the directing tutor, and I learned from the mistake of the previous day actually, because I wasn't watching with the intent of giving any more notes. I had the script down, I didn't think of anything specific at that moment, and I stumbled a little bit. Second time, I was prepared. I knew I'd made a mistake on the previous day, and corrected pretty much everything, I think. So yeah, I'm confident that the second day went way better than the first, and hopefully the first day won't drag me down too much. The actors did a great job. I'm just saying, me as a director, I don't think I did my best work. Which means that, as per my hypothesis, my best work involved classical theatre and not modern theatre. I'm not the least bit surprised, actually. So yeah, there's that. I think that's it, pretty much. Because yeah, most of everything else is just, you know, editing and some of the off times. Me having this terrible, like, eye, which is recovering a little bit, and has almost recovered entirely. I can still feel it stinging a little bit, and I still think it's like a mildly pink in places, but it's not fully red and irritated. So yeah, once again, very happy. So yeah, I have all the intention of the world of relaxing this week, but also catching up with things, particularly because Leisha and I didn't really talk about the festival so much as we did that story that she was writing. Even though the storytelling thing she had got cancelled, it's still got done. The story has still got, well, at least in the planning phase. We had all this build up for a voyage because we weren't like operating on extreme urgency anymore, so we could really go into more detail about how to make the story the most effective. But yeah, there's more ideas. I've got to storyboard 2 pitches for this assessment. Well, not this assessment, for the festival, because now I want to do that musical thing as well. You're allowed to pitch 2 things, and my contribution to the festival can be just as a writer, so I can go around and confirm for both of them and have that consultation. By which point I will actually have seen how the writer in my assessment 2 group does it, and how to consolidate that with directors. one of the directors is Leisha, then I'm already set. The other one is another guy who does music, who is in a band and does like music stuff in general. So again, great person to consult. He's not really confirmed, but I want to, pitch and get a director involved. And that's all for next week. This time next week, in fact, relatively speaking, maybe slightly later in the day. But yeah, we'll have that meeting. And this time, I shall come prepared. It won't just be they'll spring this on me in the next 2 weeks, like I thought they did at the beginning. And yeah, maybe at some point in this week I'll drop a message to people and say, hey, do you want to do a presentation read through, which means I have to plan out my presentation too. Just yeah, we'll see. That's in about a month's time, just under a month's time now. More time than I thought we had, but I still want to have more specifics than just, think about your audience, think about the Myers-Briggs test, personality types that you have and appeal to the audience, which is great for when we, got into the world, but we know the audience that we're kind of pitching to already. So that's already been factored in. But yeah, I digress. I'm going to turn around now and head back, because my legs are getting tired, my throat's getting dry, and by this point, that fire drill is long over. That's not even a phrase, I don't care, I'm Zombie Jacob now. I'm not using my brain, I don't have any brains. Maybe I have a little bit of a brain. Slight, juicy, tender brain. Oh, okay, no, I'm alive. Cognito ergo sum. Anyway, better get back home and actually eat something properly. So, yeah, that's what I intend to do. So please leave a like or dislike, because your opinion matters. And subscribe if you've done so already. And remember, read some Aesop's Fables, and The Boy Who Cried Wolf is now obsolete. That's what I'll leave you with today. So on that note, until next time, farewell.